Hello there, it's 8 p.m. in Banjul. We are broadcasting live for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. This is the news file in the headlines tonight. Government resolves the standoff with the oil marketing industry, and fuel prices remain unchanged after hours of negotiations to reopen pumping stations refusing to sell gas. Governance and security in the Sahel. NewsFile examines the resurgence of military coups, seizing constitutional mandates in the ECOWAS region, threatening democracy and stability. And a new approach to sexuality education takes shape as researchers reveal major gaps in the communication of sexual and reproductive health issues in the Gambia. Live from Banjul, this is NewsFile with me, Fatu Elika Muloshi,
and I am by Ibrahim Cham. And in sports, the Sub-Regional Beach Volleyball Championship gets underway in Banjul with 5 West African nations competing for gold. Away from home, Europe's energy crisis deepens as Russia's state-owned energy supplier, Gazprom, indefinitely shuts down its gas pipelines. Elsewhere, the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, is being laid to rest in a ceremony in Moscow. Well, that's the top of NewsFile and much more coming ahead. Many thanks for joining us.
It's great to have you here. We begin this bulletin with the ongoing gas sales standoff between oil marketing companies and the government of the Gambia over fuel prices, which has caused a major scarcity of gas in the metropolis on Friday and Saturday. But hours of negotiations between government and petroleum marketing companies led to a breakthrough as officials announced the resumption of gas sales, pumping stations with immediate effect. Prices of petrol and diesel remain unchanged, according to the dispatch from the government spokesperson, which says the Gambia government under President Adama Barrow will continue to preside over this crucial sector of our economy with right policies and actions, including regular consultations with stakeholders. The release adds that the Barrow government has from January 2022 to date provided at least $1.3 billion in fuel subsidies to help stabilize fuel prices. The subsidy for September 2022 alone is some $5.6 million. And ever since the stoppage at gas pumps yesterday, the Barrow government has been tirelessly working towards the timely resolution of this unfortunate situation affecting the lives and livelihoods of Gambians. The release from the government spokesperson, Ibrahim Sankare, concludes.
Moving on, the resurgence of military intervention seizing constitutional mandate in the ECOWAS region is posing a massive threat to democracy and stability across the Sahelian bloc, where the maintenance of fundamental principles of democracy, good governance and accountability, and the rule of law is being questioned not only by national citizens but men in uniform. In a space of 2 years, from 2021, 4 military takeovers successfully ousted sitting presidents in Mali, Guinea, Conakry and Burkina Faso, leading to sanctions which severely affecting trade, development and security along other challenges across the ECOWAS region. The regional bloc, through heads of state, is working on a presidential term limit to minimize and stop military interventions on democratic spaces. Our reporter, Usman Mane, examines the state of governance and security in the Sahel, looking at the adoption of presidential term limits in national constitutions.
In the West Africa sub-region, unsettling democratic space have signaled a strong alarm for ECOWAS citizens to galvanize efforts urging the authority of heads of state in the sub-region to discuss and consider presidential term limits.
We are calling on the heads of states to take politics of tea party drinking and go straight into the matter by invoking the section of the treaty which says majority, two-thirds majority of those present at the meeting should endorse, and they form a quorum and the endorsement stands.
It will be recalled that in May 2021, Colonel Assimi Goïta staged a military coup in Mali. 4 months later, former French legionnaire and a member of the Guinean Special Forces, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, led a military takeover in Guinea-Conakry, overthrowing President Alpha Condé, and in January 2022, the waves continue in Burkina Faso, removing Roch Marc Christian Kabore, a takeover orchestrated by Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, confirming the political instability in the sub-region. One of the main arguments acknowledging military takeovers is self-perpetuation of power, forcing civilians without choice to rally behind the military to set a transition government. The recent bold attempt to amend the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance and affirming that no elected leader should be allowed to go beyond a second term in office shows readiness to avoid not only authoritarian regimes but promoting democracy, good governance and accountability. On 28 June 2022, prior to the extraordinary session held in Accra, Ghana, the West African civil society, private sector, professional and socio-professional organizations under the auspices of ECOWAS community citizens wrote to the chairman of ECOWAS heads of state and government, Nana Akufo-Addo, to consider the proposal for the adoption of term limits.
Some countries like Nigeria had called for this particular subject matter to cease so that we can have 2 term limits. And this has been adopted by the experts, and the experts moved this particular process, the adoption, to the Council of Ministers, and the Council of Ministers adopted, and then the ECOWAS heads of state authority would need to endorse this. But I don't think that 3 countries, namely Senegal, Togo, and Cote d'Ivoire, would hold the region by the jugglers.
With recent political developments in Senegal, Macky Sall is facing a ferocious opposition force in Yewwi and Wallu, championed by Ousmane Sonko and former President Abdoulaye Wade. President Sall's desire to contest for a 3rd term in 2024 faced a major setback in the just concluded legislative elections.
Senegal, what is happening there is also very unfortunate, knowing fully well that Macky Sall is fully committed to run for the 3rd term, even though he wouldn't come out and outrightly say it. But the signs and symptoms are all there. Everyone knows that he is really willing to go for a 3rd term. But it's also good that the chairperson of the Peace and Security Committee of the ECOWAS, that is Mr. Siwon, has urged both Macky Sall and President Barrow not to run for a 3rd term because Macky Sall, although we know these are constitutional technicalities where they will say, well, my 1st term wouldn't be counted because laws cannot be applied retroactively or retrospectively.
Gambians hope for a new constitution in 2021, ushering in a 3rd republic, but could not pass the legislative chambers due to its failure to meet the required quota. Now, with ECOWAS call for a two-term limit, how realistic is the Gambia's agreement to the proposed two-term limits? Gambia's young political scientist, lecturer at the University of the Gambia, Esanjai, shares his view.
With the 1997 Constitution, where there is no term limit, I think it is just contradictory for us to sign the protocols to show our commitment when we're using a constitution that does not have a term limit. Like I said, unless we want to propose a bill, introduce a term limit in the 1997 Constitution, or we want to introduce a whole new constitution, which I think is possible if the government shows commitment, if the political will is there, ahead of the 2026 presidential election.
What should be the contribution of community citizens to the advocacy on term limits under new ECOWAS chairman Umaru Sissoho Embalo, which could perhaps put an end to military or minimize interventions on democratic space?
When rulers or leaders want to stay in power for eternity, then it becomes a problem, because this is where they develop those dictatorship or dictatorial tendencies, and this is bad for respect for human rights, it is bad for democracy, it is bad for stability. So therefore, it is important that citizens of ECOWAS, of course, led by civil society organizations, to champion this cause. ECOWAS parliamentarians, more especially, must champion this cause to make sure that we have term limits in our national constitution.
As current AU chairman, Macky Sall has a test to pass by either adhering to calls not to contest for a third term in 2024 or follow the footsteps of his predecessor, Abdoulaye Wade, as the sub-region continues to monitor the political space. Usman Mane, GRTS.
Now, the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industries conducted its annual general meeting, electing a new president and board to steer the affairs of the business promotion establishment for the next 3 years. Almost all candidates went unopposed, including the presidency, to which Idrissa Masjob was re-elected for a final term, and Alhaji Conte of Dabanani was declared vice president. Njundu Fati, CEO of Supersonics, was re-elected as treasurer. Saul Fraser elected as Director of Tourism, Construction and Real Estate, and Lassana Tunkara elected as Director for Large Employers, whilst Suleiman Boj of Radville Farms was elected as Director for Agriculture. David Jeng of Bliss Executives was also elected as Director for Youth, and Cherna Jallo of AMC Trading elected as Director for Importers, Traders, Retailers, alongside Fatu Jallo of Takaful Insurance, who was elected as Director for Banking, Insurance and Financial Services. Newly elected President Idi Masjob spoke to GRTS after the AGM. Here's an excerpt.
Thank you very much. I want to first congratulate the new board. This board is very representative of the Gambian private sector. We have reconstituted the GCCI to be able to have the different sectors of the economy represented. So I'm very impressed with the quality of people that have came forward to be elected, and I congratulate all of them. We are going to first continue what we have been doing. What we have been doing is to strengthen first the GCCI as an organization, but also to strengthen business to be able to serve the community better. Because I tell people, it is not all times that the interests of business and the interests of the community coincide, but we endeavor at the GCCI to try to make these different interests, divergent interests coincide. We believe that yes, where the community is not very good, where the community is not affluent, is not strong, business cannot grow. So we will continue on the same scheme. Another thing that we want to do this time is to lobby the government for the indigenization of the economy of the Gambia. We think that is very important, because it is only indigenous business through local employment that can bring about real development. We said private sector-led development, but we want to change that to mean local private sector-led development, because the local private sector will employ local people, create local jobs and local value addition.
Let's now take a look at the new approach to sexuality education as education researchers reveal major gaps in the communication of sexual and reproductive health issues in the Gambia. 70 students from 43 various schools within the West Coast region are now being taken through an intensive, comprehensive and sexuality education training anchored on the outcomes of a research project focused on strengthening access to quality comprehensive health education in collaboration with International Development and Research Center. Details in this report. Research findings from the Strengthening Access to Quality Comprehensive Education Research Project shows major gaps in communication between students, parents, and teachers on sensitive topics concerning sexual education, particularly during puberty. The research conducted in 43 schools involved data collection interviews with community leaders, educationists, and civil society actors on domestic attitudes and social engagement, highlighting the need for a more robust approach on sensitization on comprehensive and sexuality education. Dr. Phoeben Inagrand Sanyang is the principal investigator of the project.
So we conducted a research, and the research that what we have been asking about how you guys got to know yourself, where do you get information, how do you manage yourself when you guys reach puberty and reproduction, and where are the information, who give you the information, where do you get information from, and how is also the school, especially the curriculum that we are teaching, do you get enough information from the curriculum, do you get adequate information from the schools, do you get the right information from your parents, or where do you get information? Is it your peers who advise you, your family members, or the media that advised you? So we have got a lot of interesting findings. And when we've concluded the research, we have found something called a gap, and the gap is communication.
The core of the basics of this training was centered on menstruation and ovulation, puberty and sexual transmitted diseases, pregnancy, unwanted and unplanned pregnancy, unsafe abortion, sexual gender-based violence, as well as forced and early marriage, including FGM, and all no-go subjects, given a wide berth in social conversations. Students were taken through various means they can use to seek protection from all forms of unsafe and unwanted sex, alongside the repercussions involved.
On that note, the need to educate adolescents is seen, which is why this training is being organized. As we go with the motto, learn and teach others, after this training, comprehensive health education clubs will be established in your respective schools or incorporated in existing clubs, just like the peer health, where each of you, that is the trainees, will serve as focal persons so as to train others and help broaden the information you are going to learn with us during this 2 days training.
Principal Education Officer Mrs. Fatu Bitey Cham urged students to approach the course seriously, considering the vital and life-changing information being taught.
We said now, let us integrate it into the career subjects. You will see that all these issues of comprehensive health education that we are talking about, we now try to integrate it. You will see it in your mathematics. There it can come under statistics. It can come under any other team under mathematics. You have it in English. As passages, you must do English. You must read those passages. Therefore, you will have issues of comprehensive health education.
The 2-day training is expected to expand the conversation on comprehensive sexual health and also educate participating students in crucial topics shaping their future, a challenging task and subject largely unaddressed in many households. Reporting for GRTS News, I'm by Ibrahim Cham.
Well, let's now head to the Lower River region, where a 5-day training for cattle farmers is underway at the Agricultural Training Center in Genoy. The roundtable, organized by the Department of Livestock Services, seeks to promote small ruminant production. Our regional correspondent Usman Balde tells us more.
According to organizers, the training is one of the series of activities required for the implementation of the project, as the MOU signed between the Small Ruminant Production Enhancement Project and the Department of Livestock Services. Madhu Kamara, Regional Livestock Director for Lower River Region, described the training as vital and timely and called on participants to take this training seriously. The training is focusing on disease identification and prevention, breeding and reproductive health management, small ruminant commercial farming, development and management. Neri Kor, a livestock specialist, small ruminant production enhancement project, outlined the various programs the project aimed to implement.
The project in that line will collaborate with the Department of Livestock Services, first of all, to try to eradicate or try to work on vaccinating or controlling the disease, PPR, that is a hindrance to small ruminant production. Once that is done, the project is also going to work on trying to establish infrastructures that will enhance production. Amongst them, 60 schemes, amongst them 30 breeders and 30 fatteners. These schemes will be given infrastructures that will enhance their production. And besides that, the project will also establish markets. Once you have a market, once you have production increase, you need a market. We will try to improve and establish 10 livestock markets just amongst within the region.
Emmanuel W. Mendy, the Deputy Director General Animal Production, Department of Livestock Services, assured of his strong relationship with farmers to boost livestock production.
This project is a project of difference. It is different from other projects and has a department who will ensure that we will take you through, will accompany you through from now until the end of the project, and will continue with you to ensure that we attain our objective. That this country will go back to all those golden days when we were exporting Ndama cattle to other sub-regional countries. We have to stop the importation of rams for Tobaski in this country. It is not good for the government. It is not good for the farmers. Our foreign coffers are going, our foreign savings are going. Because once those animals come from other countries, they will sell them here. Yes, you just get the meat to perform your religious function. But the returns, the economic part of it, the income part of it, goes back to where they came from.
The participants are beneficiaries of the Small Ruminant Production Enhancement Project, as well as farmers that are actively working in small ruminant production and productivity across the 6 agricultural regions of the country. Usman Balde, GRTS News.
Live from Banjul, this is NewsFile. A reminder of our top stories. Government resolves the standoff with the oil marketing industry, and fuel prices remain unchanged after hours of negotiations to reopen pumping stations refusing to sell gas. Governance and security in the Sahel. NewsFile examines the resurgence of military coup seizing constitutional mandates in the ECOWAS region, threatening democracy and stability. And a new approach to sexuality education takes shape as researchers reveal major gaps in the communication of sexual and reproductive health issues in the Gambia.
Also in sports, the Stop Regional Beach Volleyball Championship gets underway in Banjul with 5 nations competing for gold, silver and bronze. Away from home, Europe's energy crisis deepens as Russia's state-owned energy supplier, Gazprom, shuts down its gas pipelines. Elsewhere, the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, is being laid to rest at a ceremony in Moscow. That's more coming up, and more, of course, plus more, right after this break. Stay with us.
Wherever you go, we'll be there together with you. We're taking you higher. We got the power to make you a champion.
Can you imagine us celebrating love? What we can do? We make your dreams come true. We put you first in our representation. We're not for just one, but for the whole nation. We
Welcome back, and now to some sports as the Sub-Regional Beach Volleyball Championship gets underway in Banjul with 5 nations competing for gold, silver and bronze. Host nation Gambia made a bright start to the championship with a 2-set to win for both men and women's B teams in their opening games against Senegal. Famara Baji witnessed the opening encounter at the Palmarima Beach, and he now reports.
This sub-regional championship brought together the host nation, the Gambia, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, and Guinea-Conakry, who will be competing with a primary target for gold medals. This competition is regarded as crucial for the development of beach volleyball across the sub-region.
Right now, Gambia is almost leading when it comes to beach volleyball in the zone. So having all these countries here to play with is really great. It also means a lot because it means we continue to be on our trajectory. We continue to be moving the sport in the country. And this is what we want to do always, because we have to keep the momentum going. We don't have to stop. And no better way by hosting the zonal competitions and other kind of competitions, and continuing to create platform for our young players and young guys to be playing the sport, and for many other people to see the sport and like it and play it.
Hosting such a championship comes with challenges, but the Gambia Volleyball Federation is determined to meet the expectations.
We are trying to make sure we make them comfortable, but we also make sure we create, like the platform we are creating for our people, we create it at this stage also for all these countries' athletes who are coming to benefit. So they are expecting high from Gambia, so we are also trying to live up to the billing.
The opening encounters were intriguing. The host nation, the Gambia's second male team, played a keenly contested game with Senegal, as the two were separated by a tiebreaker after winning 1 set each. Gambia's Seni Jao and Jahara Koita were too strong for Senegal's Hassan Fall and Pap Major Njai in the deciding set, which ended in Gambia's favor. In the female category, it was a delight for Team Gambia as they defeated Senegal 2-1, winning the deciding set with a 2-point difference.
In terms of playing with Seni, everybody knows Seni. He's one of the best players in the Gambia right now. So playing with him is an honor, it's a respect. Yeah, so I think with him we can do best, our level best to win the gold medal, inshallah.
This competition is going to help us develop our zone. Anytime it happens, it helps the teams to continue their development so they can win the African Cup, as the Gambia did. This championship is crucial for our development.
For the Sierra Leonean female team, it was a bright start for them, as the pair of Fatmata Bintaba and Gladys Mabinti Fofana proved unmatched against the Guinea-Conakry female team, beating them in both the first and the second set. The players who said they struggled to get to Banjul came with a clear intent.
For Sierra Leone, for we the players, we travel miles from Sierra Leone by road to Gambia. So it's not easy, and we reach yesterday night, and we have match today, and we are not expecting this lot of wind, so we are fighting our best.
To travel 3 days on the road to go back to your country is really hard, so we're hoping to see them. We are going to win the gold so that they can buy tickets for us to fly back to our home.
6 teams were divided into 2 groups of 3. As the host nation, the Gambia produced 2 male and female teams. The teams will play each other in a pool format, with the winners advancing to the semi-finals and the final, which is slated for Sunday, 4th September 2022 at the Palmarima Beach.
We want Gambians to come out and support this initiative. It's a national venture, and we should show that we are a leading country in volleyball, not only through the play of Seni and Bai, but also through the crowd that comes out to watch the sport.
Famara Baji, GRTS News.
We take another quick break. NewsFile continues with news outside the Gambia in just a moment.
Welcome back. Now, Russia's state-owned energy supplier, Gazprom, says it is indefinitely halting the flow of gas through a key pipeline to Germany. The company says it's discovered leaks in a turbine. It was expected to restart deliveries today after a 3-day break for maintenance. But in a social media post, Gazprom announced Nord Stream 1 was now completely suspended without giving any time frame. European leaders rejected the reasoning they perceive as an extension of Russia's war in Ukraine. Siemens, the German company that supplied Gazprom with the turbines, says there is no reason the pipeline couldn't keep operating.
Well, the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, is being laid to rest in a ceremony at Moscow. Gorbachev died on Tuesday at the age of 91 after a long illness. Crowds lined up in Moscow to see the former president lying in state at the Moscow Hall of Columns, and he is not being given a full state funeral usually held for former leaders. Russian President Vladimir Putin will not attend, citing a full schedule. Most Western leaders are also staying away because of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. However, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is expected to be in Moscow to pay his last respects.
Well, now in Ukraine's Kharkiv region, some troops are being deployed elsewhere as officials confirm the success of a counter-offensive they say has managed to push Russian military out and toward the border. Owen Holdaway joins the CGTN specialist group sent to the front lines in Donetsk.
The 93rd Mechanized Brigade is one of Ukraine's oldest and largest military units. It was heavily involved in the defence of the city of Kharkiv in the east and the Battle of Izium to the south. After pushing back Russian troops in the area, some of these soldiers are being redeployed to new hotspots.
Напевно, тому що 93-я славетна бригада має великий досвід, має багато спеціалістів, які можуть захистити таке місто, як Бахмут, відбити ворога, відкинути назад і вийти з цього положення, в якому зараз ми знаходимося тут. Так як потрібно вирівняти, напевно, лінію фронту, потрібно відкинути противника, потрібно йти в наступ, потрібно визволяти Донецьку та Луганську область.
With these fresh forces, the Ukrainians have built extensive and new defensive positions aimed at repelling and, more importantly, identifying Russian positions.
Дрони в сучасній війні – це очі, і я сподіваюся, що цих очей буде занадто більше. Ми пілоти лелеки 100, ми займаємось розвідкою, аеророзвідкою, працюємо над противником, що логічно.
In addition to reconnaissance, this unit is also going on the offensive, launching multiple attacks on Russian military positions that only in the past few days have made fresh offensive against the controlled Ukrainian towns nearby.
A specific unit that deals with drone attacks against the Russians is now taking the fight very much to the Russians. However, as here in the neighbouring town of Konstantinikov, where we are, you can see the damage behind me is still extensive and Russian missiles are still striking here daily.
And these air attacks are putting a significant strain on the residents who have decided to remain.
Значит, в городе очень тревожно, очень тревожно. Вы знаете, у нас залеты постоянно. Сегодня утром в 5 утра прилетел у нас в районе 7-й школы. У нас была церковная, воскресная школа. Вот туда попал у нас снаряд. И так часто залетает. Совсем недавно, месяц назад, залетел снаряд на водораспределительную установку. Воды не было месяц. Сейчас начала появляться, но неделю опять у нас нет воды. Со светом более-менее. Если и пропадает, то на час, на два всего лишь не страшно. Газа с мая месяца нет.
With no end in sight to the conflict in Ukraine, it seems the hardship civilians are facing here is only likely to continue. Owen Holdaway, reporting for CGTN in the Donetsk, Ukraine.
Well, that draws the curtains for this edition of GRTS NewsFile, but a quick recap of our top stories. Government resolves the standoff with the oil marketing industry, and fuel prices remain unchanged after hours of negotiations to reopen pumping stations refusing to sell gas. Governance and security in the Sahel. NewsFile examined the resurgence of military coups seizing constitutional mandates across the ECOWAS region, posing threats to democracy and stability. And a new approach to sexuality education is taking shape as researchers reveal major gaps in the communication of sexual and reproductive health issues in the Gambia.
In sports, the Sub-Regional Beach Volleyball Championship is underway in Banjul with 5 West African nations competing for gold, silver and bronze. Away from home, Europe is facing a deepening energy crisis as Russia's state-owned energy supplier, Gazprom, shuts down gas pipelines to the west. Elsewhere, the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, has been laid to rest at a ceremony in Moscow. Well, that does it for this edition of NewsFile. It's been myself, Fatili Kamloshi.
And by Ibrahim Cham.
Well, bye. We'll be coming up at 2200 hours for more news. Until then, enjoy the rest of our program.
Absolutely.
In a country always thirsty for more, a team of superheroes with special powers unite to redefine the way we are connected. Big Pharma!